During the latest flight, the team made a transfer in Paris, where all their luggage was lost, including fencing gear.noc-ukr.orgUkrainian women's saber fencing national team presented by Olha Kharlan, Alina Komashchuk, Olena, Voronina and Yulia Bakastova have found themselves in an unpleasant situation after arriving in a training camp in Japan. During the flight, the team made a transfer in Paris, where all their belongings were lost, including fencing gear. For a week, Ukrainians have been trained sporting in other people's uniform, starting from sneakers to fencing suits. At the training camp in Japan, the Ukrainian saber fencers are preparing for the World Cup, which will be held in Wuxi, China, on July 19. Also, Croatian player addresses Ukrainians after knocking Russia out of World Cup video. There have been no updates from Lost and Found services yet. Participants in the tournament are required to compete wearing uniform with their surname and national flag on it, while fencing equipment must before the start of the tournament be checked for compliance with standards of the International Fencing Federation. FI, leader of the national team, Olha Kharlan, is the standing world champion. 2018 Fencing World Championships will be held in Wuxi, China, on July 19 to 27. If you see a spelling error on our site, select it and press Ctrl-Enter. Latest news 11:40 EU, Ukraine leaders call for release of political prisoners in Russia. 10:20 Ukraine agrees with EU to continue, boost anti-graft reform. 9:40 EU calls on Ukraine to fully implement national security law. 9 o'clock Jeremy Hunt replaces Boris Johnson amid Brexit turmoil. BBC 1:55 Poroshenko, Ukraine expects first tranche of EU's MFAIV in autumn. 23:20 Fitch affirms LVIV's issuer default ratings at B. 2250 Ukraine sees 9.9% inflation in June year-over-year. 2157 Private banks ATMs resume work after short shutdown. 2057 Moody's expects Ukraine's economy to grow by about 3.5% annually. 1855 EU about war in Ukraine, acts of aggression by Russian armed forces. 1750 BBC, Boris Johnson quits to add to pressure on May over Brexit. 1600 EU decision to allocate €1 billion aid to Ukraine comes into force. 1441 one-time declaration of individuals' assets to be held in Ukraine. 1420 Ukraine boosts revenues from ferrous metals exports by 35% in H1 2018. 1400 experts to name best Ukrainian region for doing business. 1340 Ukraine slams UK newspapers for playing along with Russian propaganda. 1320 new law on currency to come into force in Ukraine in February 2019. 1300 Ukrainian gas reserves grow by over 55.4% since April 9. 1240 sea breeze 2018 drills start in Odessa. 12:20 Ukrainian saber fencers left without gear 10 days before World Cup. 11:20 Brexit Secretary David Davis resigns. BBC 10 o'clock Poroshenko to take part in 20th Ukraine-EU Summit. July 9. 9 o'clock UK women dies after poisoning by Soviet-era Novichok nerve agent. 2300 leave EU funder met Russian ambassador 11 times. Media 2030 USS Porter arrives in Odessa for sea breeze. 2018 drills. 1840 Ukraine's national security law comes into force today. 1340 expert speaks of Putin's new major front of his war against Ukraine. 1240 Polish President Duda arrives in Luxembourg. 2345 North Korea says Pompeo talks regrettable. Media 2310 Ukrainian dissident Levko Lukyanenko dies. 2110 Donbay War update, Russia-led forces attack Ukraine troops twice. 1855 death toll reaches 49 from floods, landslides in Japan. Photos. 1750 Sentsov writes letter from Russian colony. 1340 German, NATO officials wary of Trump-Putin summit. Media 1245 NBU strengthens official forex rate to 26 Ukrainian hryvnias and 31 kopeckas to $23.30 US. Welcomes Ukraine's new national security law. 2150 U.S.-Ukraine business ties growing. Kiev Post. 1910 historians discussing thorny Polish-Ukrainian issues.